to charities and stuff like that. It's just been a huge deal. We've got a media advisory here from Governor Gianforte for an announcement he's going to be making this morning at 10 a.m., right as the show ends. So Governor Gianforte to make an announcement to close Montana's digital divide. Helena, Montana, Governor Gianforte will make a historic announcement to close Montana's digital divide at 10 a.m. today. According to the FCC, 1 in 3 Montanans do not have access to broadband, which is 3 times the national average. The digital divide is even greater in Montana rural communities, where 3 in 5 Montanans do not have access to broadband. Expanding access to broadband, closing the digital divide throughout Montana is a top priority for Governor Gianforte. So 10 a.m. this morning, I assume he's going to be announcing approval of the broadband grants that are $300 million that have come from federal funds to do this. And hey, the great news about that story is the fact that now folks are going to be able to live stream on Twitch and listen to me every night on Twitch. And we do have a very special guest coming up here at the 7 a.m. hour. robnoerr, one of the greatest conservative Twitch streamers out there. I'm trying to get some other Twitch streamers as well to come on the show, but robnoerr is one of the best conservative streamers. He is the best debater on the platform. Really excited. You're not going to want to miss this 7 a.m. hour. Here's the other AP news brief for Montana this morning. Zoe Zephyr worked behind the scenes during Montana's 2021 legislative session to oppose an ultimately unsuccessful effort to ban transgender minors from receiving gender-affirming health care. When the 2023 session starts next month, she'll face a similar challenge because a Republican lawmaker says he's going to bring the bill again. This time, however, Zephyr will have a seat at the table and a vote. Zephyr is one of the first 2 openly transgender people to be elected to the Montana legislature. She says she hopes their presence will help fellow lawmakers better understand the trans community to avoid proposing legislation that legitimizes violence against the transgender community. So now, apparently trying to protect kids from horrible, life-altering, permanent damage through this, what they call gender-affirming care, apparently that legitimizes violence. Absolutely disgusting piece by Montana AP right there. We got robnoerr coming up here at 7 a.m. hour. This is David Noble filling in for Aaron Flint.
Have you been naughty or nice this year? Cash don't care. At Jackson Hewitt, you could still get up to $4,500 for the holidays. Some bucks now, more bucks in January. So be naughty. Snap up all the ginger snaps. Wear a pretty sweater to an ugly sweater holiday party. You could still get up to $4,500 when you go to Jackson Hewitt today. Details at jacksonhewitt.com. Eligible clients can get up to $1,000 in December and up to $3,500 in January. Loans by Republic Bank and Trust Company. Finance charge may apply.
When you're involved in an accident, there's only one place to trust with your vehicle's collision work: Trackside Auto Body. They deal with insurance companies every day, and they'll deal with yours. They work with only the highest quality parts and the highest quality auto technicians. Trackside Auto Body makes the process simple and gets your car or truck back to free-loss condition. At Trackside Auto Body, they're on your vehicle's side. Trackside Auto Body, 2012 First Avenue North, online, BillingsBestAutoBody.com. Call 256-8366.
Broadcasting from the Grizzly Gold and Silver Studios, trusted by the Northwest.
KBUL Billings, K277DF Billings.
KCHA, Hornet, K23680 Billings.
News Talk 970, 103.3 FM.
Stormy weather from the north to the south. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
So got a mobile home park that was completely destroyed.
That's in Farmersville, Louisiana, where Police Detective Cade Nolan says an apartment building was also damaged. Dozens of people were hurt. In Keithville, 3 people were killed in another tornado, including
a little boy and his mother, and there are multiple injuries.
Fox Weather's Robert Ray is there.
Structures in this neighborhood behind the camera, we are told, are in bad shape, but police not allowing us into that area right now. As a matter of fact, not even allowing residents who perhaps left last night for shelter back in yet.
There's also tornado damage and injuries in parts of Oklahoma and Texas. From Montana to Minnesota, there are blizzard warnings up to 2 feet of snow. We're just getting news out of Mississippi. 2 police officers in Bay St. Louis were shot and killed early this morning responding to a call. President Biden has declared this a day of remembrance. It's been exactly 10 years since the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, that left 26 first graders and adults dead. A gunman shot his way in. This all led to debates over making schools safer and gun laws stricter.
While broad federal legislation failed, some states, including New York, Connecticut, Colorado, and Maryland, signed measures into law. In February, Sandy Hook families reached a $73 million settlement with Remington, the company that made the rifle used by the shooter.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. The Democrat-led House committee investigating last year's Capitol riot will hold a final public hearing on Monday, considering possible criminal referrals.
Many will be watching to see if the criminal recommendations include former President Donald Trump. The recommendations will be made to the Justice Department, which is conducting its own investigation.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz. The current House could vote today on short-term funding to avert a government shutdown this weekend as Congress works on a spending bill for the rest of the fiscal year that could be approved next week. America's listening to Fox News.
Testosterone levels are at an all-time low. Individual T levels decline 1% every year. CHOQ, CHOQ, is the new champion of natural testosterone boosters. CHOQ's main ingredient is clinically studied to naturally boost testosterone 20% in 90 days. Supercharge your masculinity and boost your daily energy with CHOQ's Male Vitality Stack. For a limited time, our listeners will get 30% off at CHOQ.com with promo code USA. CHOQ.com, code USA.
Dell Technologies' Days of Deals for Business start now with fresh, limited quantity deals on tech to drive productivity. Save on select performance laptops and desktops powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Don't forget special pricing on the latest monitors, docks, and accessories, plus free shipping on everything, and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
A condemned killer has just hours left to live on death row in Mississippi. Thomas Loden Jr. is supposed to get a lethal injection tonight for raping and murdering a teenage girl in 2000. His execution would be the 17th and final one in the U.S. this year. No one will get a needle on a gurney anymore in Oregon. Democratic Governor Kate Brown has commuted the sentences for all 17 death row prisoners there to life without parole. Brown also ordered Oregon's death chamber be dismantled. Also in that state, a new voter-approved gun law remains mostly blocked.
A judge in Harney County, which is in eastern Oregon, extended his order that blocks the permit-to-purchase provision of Oregon's new gun law. And he blocked part of the law that prevents the sale of a firearm until a background check is passed, noting federal law says a sale can proceed if a background check takes longer than 3 days. The permit aspect of the law requires gun buyers to go through a training course and submit fingerprints. But the judge was also hearing arguments over the law's ban on sales of magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds. The lawsuit was filed alleging a violation of the state constitution. Last week, a federal judge ruled in favor of the magazine ban and did not issue a ruling that stopped the permit requirement. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
In New York City, some cold cases may never be solved now after things got too hot, burned in a big fire in Brooklyn.
The New York City Police Department's evidence warehouse was heavily damaged by the fire that likely destroyed decades of collected evidence.
DNA, things from past crimes, burglaries, maybe shooting incidents. We have some biological evidence.
Chief of the NYPD, Jeffrey Madry, says they won't know the full extent of what was lost until they can do an inventory of what was left, the cause of that fire, under investigation. Jack Callahan, Fox News.
The Federal Reserve is expected to implement another interest rate hike today to keep trying to drive down inflation. Ahead of that on Wall Street, stock futures aren't moving much. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
Just checking the phone line here. Rob, are you holding in there all right?
Yep, everything's fine.
Excellent. Thank you. You're sounding great here. We're going to be back on the air here in 1 minute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stability, Hankook, the trusted name on or off the road, are in stock off King Avenue and 32nd Street. Stop in today, and they'll have you on your way at Lysick Tire Supply.
Here for your car, wherever you are.
When the forgotten poor are in need of healing, they wait for a ship unlike any other. Mercy ships, a floating hospitals staffed by volunteers, heroes of mercy who donate their time to save lives.
Every human has the right to have a place at the table of the human race.
If you could just see smiles that you get when lives have been changed, then it would make it all worth it.
To learn more about Heroes of Mercy, go to mercyships.org.
This is where Montana talks. Call Aaron on the Parsec Data Management phone lines, 406-294-0970. Parsec Data Management, securing critical business IT. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
It's David Noble filling in for Aaron Flint on Montana Talks. We have a very special guest this hour, one of my good friends and fellow Twitch streamer, robnoerr. You can find him online at Noerr, Robert, Noerr, Robert. Hey, Rob, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, you know, I think the reason I wanted to have you on is because I think it will be a wonderful treat to the listeners of Montana Talks to hear you talk. I'm a huge fan. You've run for Congress before. You're a big debater. You dominate liberals all the time in debates online. What else do you think is important for people to know, just to introduce yourself?
I come from a unique situation in that I'm from rural Pennsylvania. Everyone I know is sort of a blue collar, would be conservative if they're political. But I did policy debate in college, and that was the most left of the left. And so I had this unique perspective where I made friends in both of those worlds. But it was interesting to come from where I was and see just how little many of these people that would go on to become lawyers or lobbyists or politicians from Ivy League schools that I was participating in debates with, how little they thought of sort of rural America and where I came from. And that's what's helped shape me, where I think the issues that I talk about the most are issues of corruption and sort of advocating for people in rural areas, because I see that we don't really have a profound voice, not just in politics oftentimes, but also in other cultural issues, such as in their entertainment industry, voices in the media. So that's what inspired me to start a show and inspired me to run for Congress, was that I was interested in trying to be a voice for people that are blue-collar people that basically just want to be left alone and work and have their lives. But unfortunately, oftentimes they get lost in the shuffle in Washington.
Yeah, and boy, do we see the left and the Democrats still today just so arrogant, and they still look down on Americans from rural areas, and you see that in the Twitter files and these messages. These Democrats, they're just so arrogant, and they truly think they're better than other people.
And it's ironic because everyone says that Trump started this division, but that's not true. Trump was just sort of the predictable outcome of when you belittle people and when you ignore them for so long that inevitably they're going to have a boisterous person that talks to them. Trump was a very unique phenomenon. There are things to criticize about Trump, but I knew people in my life personally, family and friends and many other people in this area, that literally never voted their entire life until 2016, because they saw this Manhattan billionaire as being the first prominent person that actually spoke of them in a positive way in a long, long time. And so the idea that it was, you're right about the arrogance, but the idea that we're gaslit into believing from the Democrats, which is, everything was this really hunky-dory, people getting along, and then Donald Trump comes along and he's, very divisive. It's just not true. That division's always been there, mocking flyover country, mocking clinging to their guns and Bibles.
Great. Hey, we're up against the break here. Great point. We'll be right back talking to robnoerr.
406. I had a couple of doctors on the show earlier in the week, and I started talking about Farm 406, and I was saying how, hey, if somebody is on multiple medications, let's say you have 5 different medications you have to take every day. What Farm 406 will do, they will package up your medications to where your medications are already organized by day and by time of day. You basically have a sheet of paper with tabs on it. Monday morning, tab. Pop that tab, there's Monday morning's medications. Monday afternoon, pop that tab, there's Tuesday, there's Monday afternoon's medications. Anyway, these doctors were like, man, that is just brilliant, because oftentimes who is caring for an elderly loved one, another elderly family member. And it can be really confusing to manage all these medications. So what I'm saying is let Farm 406 manage that for you. It'll show up organized. It's incredible. Farm406.com.
Get excited. Billings Kia Volkswagen, the corner of Shiloh and King.
Freddie Fowler here from Kia Volkswagen of Billings. You know why December is my favorite time of year? It's because those roundabouts covered in snow that you guys are going to wreck your car, and I know that I got brand new cars to sell with 10-year, 100,000-mile warranties, with free maintenance, with free smiles, free hot dogs. Get excited.
Get excited. Kia Volkswagen of Billings, the corner of Shiloh and King.
Make this a holiday to treasure with 50% off everything at your nearest Banana Republic factory store. Discover inspired gifts, big and small, for everyone on your list, starting at $24.99. Only at Banana Republic Factory.
We're News Talk 970 and 103.3 FM KBUL. Your home for Fox News, Hannity, Bongino, and Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
One more reason. I mean, MVD Express is already making it more convenient to renew a driver's license, obtain a real ID, or delivers vehicle registration renewal. Now, here comes one more reason to love them. MVD Express now offering written and road testing. You hated the old way of doing that. Well, that's why MVD is a breath of fresh air. You'll love the simplicity, so let them spoil you. Make it happen starting now. Visit MVDexpress.com for details. MVDexpress.com.
Make this a holiday to treasure with 50% off everything at your nearest Banana Republic factory store. Discover inspired gifts, big and small, for everyone on your list, starting at $24.99. Only at Banana Republic Factory.
It's not too early to talk to your child about drinking. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Broadcasting live across the great state of Montana, this is Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
We're talking to robnoerr. If you guys want to jump in on the conversation, 406-294-0970. I'll see if I can remember how to take multiple phone calls if you want to talk and jump in on this conversation. Rob, sorry, that first section is a little bit short, but you were kind of talking about one thing that you mentioned that kind of made me think was you're talking about these people that is a lot of Americans that they just want to be able to work and have a family and live peacefully, and they haven't been traditionally involved in politics. And unfortunately, I think that that's really not an option for a lot of people anymore, because politics is coming for those people and the Democrats will ruin their life unless these people get involved and get hyped up about politics and start doing everything they possibly can. Do you agree with that, or do you think that that's some a way? And I personally, I think the 30% of Americans that don't vote, I think those people, if they voted and if they were informed, would vote for Republicans. So I think we've got a big task ahead of us to get more Americans up to speed, knowledgeable about the corruption and everything else that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we got to where we are because of sort of apathetic or uninformed people allowing this to continue apace for so long. And so I think for me, the change that I saw wasn't just in 2016 with Trump running, but it was definite when it came to COVID. And when you talk to people that their whole life might have said to me, oh, Rob's talking about politics again, I don't want to hear this. All of a sudden they lost their small business. All of a sudden their kids weren't allowed to go to school. And then, unfortunately, the stark reality of, look, politics, whether you like it or not, is involved in your day-to-day life. And if you allow sort of people to pick and choose who your representatives are that are more authoritarian and think they should have more control over things like when you are allowed to freely associate with people, what you're allowed to say, or what your child is allowed to learn or is forced to learn in school, if you give that up and say, well, I'm not interested, the worst sort of people, the worst authoritarians will take that mantle, and they're going to start to indoctrinate your kid, and they're going to start to issue authoritarian policies because they treat you with contempt. They think that you as someone who's rural, as someone who has conservative values. They think that they're ethically better than you, and therefore they're justified in dismissing your beliefs and, if necessary, being authoritarian to you.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you could see that clearly in the Twitter files where these people felt good about themselves for censoring not only just Trump, but anybody else. And I don't know if you saw the part 5 of the Twitter files where they were literally, these leftist Twitter employees were literally saying that Donald Trump is the leader of a terrorist group. And so these people on the left that are all in favor of censoring, not only are they in favor of censoring, which is a bad thing, but they actually think that they're good people for doing it.
Yeah, it's incredible. You can see this all over, and I know, having talked to you before, we can see examples of this not just at Twitter, but on college campuses, with Democrats on the Hill. They truly believe that people that disagree with them and voted for Trump, say, are terrorists, are racist, are unethical, are Nazis, and therefore it justifies in their head any sort of prescription that they have for these people. And so you can see that the real danger is that I heard in one of the commercials it was talking about in Oregon issues with the Second Amendment. We can see with the Twitter files issues with the First Amendment. They're all for shredding that Bill of Rights when it comes to people that they don't like. And those people happen to be Trump voters, conservatives, people in rural America. So it's incredibly frightening because what you're seeing is what people like me and you have always suspected, is that now they're becoming more transparent with, well, who cares about the Bill of Rights? Who cares if massive corporate combination with government power is censoring people to swing elections? We don't care as long as it's benefiting our side. And this isn't going to end up in a good place if we don't stop it now.
No, I absolutely agree. So one of the things we were talking about during the last hour was Governor DeSantis's new basically petition, I guess he's filing with the Florida Supreme Court to establish basically a grand jury to try to hold the COVID-19 mRNA shot manufacturers available. And he's also standing up a group that's going to be trying to push back against CDC misinformation. And then we see this other news recently about how, they're calling this, what's going on right now, a tridemic. It's a combination of RSV, COVID-19, and flu, and there's a tridemic, so we need to mask again, which is for most Americans just mind-boggling. But I don't know, have you seen that the news from Governor DeSantis with those two things?
I have, and I think that DeSantis is doing an incredible job. There's this sort of infighting that the media wants to encourage Republicans to be doing right now. I'm as opinionated as anyone on sort of the candidates that I would like to see, but I'm trying not to fall for that trap. There are questions that I have about all the potential 2024 frontrunners, such as Trump, DeSantis, and others. But right now, I think Ron DeSantis is absolutely killing it as governor. I think he is doing the exact right things, and he is pushing back in ways that are most effective. The way that these authoritarian policies are crafted and enabled to be had is because there is a censorship of competing ideas, whether that's occurring on Twitter, on YouTube, through Google's algorithms and things like that, or whether it's occurring through the conversation in the scientific community. In other words, if the CDC says it, then it must be true. Well, we can see that they've been wrong over and over. They were wrong about locking down schools. They were wrong about the vaccine preventing transmission. They were wrong about the mandates being good for people even that are young and healthy. And they were wrong about the origins of the virus. But we had to accept it because we're deemed that they are the science. Fauci said this all the time. When they're attacking me, they're attacking science. And DeSantis, in one fell swoop, proves that that's nonsense, that there are competing scientific views. And it's actually very unscientific to just say this is the governing body of science and you could never question it, even when they're wrong over and over. So I think this is great.
Up against another break.
Your real news. An early spike in influenza cases is emerging in Montana. That's in stark contrast to recent years when zero to few cases were reported at this time of year. The Montana Health Department's most recent weekly snapshot shows an aggressive start to flu season. Almost 1,000 new influenza cases were reported between November 27 and December 3. Montana Dakota Utilities plans to demolish a smokestack in Mandan, North Dakota today. An explosives team will use charges to make the stack fall over. In February, MDU retired its two coal-fired stations, Heskett 1 and 2, in Mandan. The company built a third natural gas plant nearby in 2014. A new $73 million natural gas plant is expected to be online by mid-2023. And if you're still trying to find a Christmas tree, it might be harder to find one this year. The American Christmas Tree Association predicts that while there may be trees to buy, there will be less variety. Some reports have shown that smaller retailers may cut back on their Christmas orders. However, due to supply congestion, large retailers selling artificial trees will sell their old stock at a lower cost than new stock. The best thing to do this year is buy your Christmas tree early to get the perfect tree at the right price. For Real News Montana, I'm Josh Rath.
If you have ever thought about remodeling your bathroom but were worried it would take too long or cost too much, then stop worrying. Right now, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has designed a collection of high-quality custom products and perfected the one-day remodeling experience so you can enjoy your new bathroom faster than ever before. It's a worry-free bath remodel from the most trusted brand name in the business, Jacuzzi. For a virtual or in-home appointment, call 800-826-9895. That's 800-826-9895. 800-826-9895.
Hey, it's finally there on our Montana Talks app, or go to montanatalks.com. You can listen to all 4 hours of the show on demand. Is your equipment or your truck showing its wear and needing some new paint? Well, I recommend Duck's Paint Shop on Colson Road in Lockwood, and here's why. Duck's Paint Shop has been in business since 1989. They've got the expertise, the facility, and the equipment to get the job done right. With 2 60-foot paint booths to easily fit your semi, tanker, trailer, flatbed, or even your excavator, Duck's Paint Shop can get your equipment back in shape and ready for years of continued service. Duck's Paint Shop can help with everything from small repairs to replacing hoods or fenders if your rig had a run-in with something unexpected. Ducks is located at 1443 Colson Road in Lockwood, Montana. For estimates or to schedule an appointment, stop by or call them at 259-4715. That's 406-259-4715. A good, fresh paint job extends the life of your equipment, helps ease your way through scale inspections, and shows your pride in your company. Give Ducks Paint Shop a call and let them get you ready for the road.
This is where Montana Talks Ag with Lane Nordland.
Portland, Oregon City Council recently voted to phase out petroleum diesel sales and replace the product with biofuels produced by farmers. The policy focuses on diesel fuel phasing in requirements for renewable fuels, with the goal of achieving 99% renewable blend of all diesel fuels sales in Portland by 2030. While renewable fuel producers are confident that supply will be available in Oregon by 2026, the rollout timeline was extended to 2030 in response to concerns from local industry about supply costs. City leaders say the efforts reduce dependence on non-renewable fossil fuels by increasing the required percentage of renewable fuel blends with petroleum diesel.
When it comes to the beef business, there's no room for gray area. The decisions being made in Washington affect the future of the beef industry, the livelihood of your fellow farmers and ranchers. Your National Cattlemen's Beef Association knows there's what benefits cattlemen and there's what doesn't. Visit ncba.org to learn more.
If you have yet to get a Christmas tree, just a reminder that you can get a $5 Christmas tree permit to harvest a tree on U.S. Forest Service lands. Visit recreation.gov and help play a role in forest management out across the countryside. I'm Lane Nordland.
This is where Montana talks. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
It's David Noble filling in for Aaron Flint. We're talking to robnoerr on the phone. If you guys want to jump in on the conversation, 406-294-0970. Rob, we did get a phone call here from the DJ in Billings talked to the producer and asked us to discuss ESG. But I kind of wanted to just comment on what you were saying right before the break cut you off there, and sorry for the cutoff. I'm still trying to get the timing right on that. But you were commenting about how wrong it is for Fauci to say that he is science. And I just saw on Twitter, it looks like we may be getting 6 of the Twitter files today that's going to talk about COVID. And you know, my thing is on this is that basically what has happened with COVID and the censorship of dissenting opinions on COVID is the perfect example of why censorship is bad, and that is that when you censor opinions and thoughts and ideas because they're false, well, it may turn out that they're right. And depends on whether you're talking about, whether the COVID-19 mRNA shots prevent transmission, whether you're talking about where did COVID-19 come from, whether you're talking about all these issues, they censored those statements and then they turned out to be correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. And the problem is, even if you approach this sort of thing, let's say you're on the left and you say, well, I was concerned about COVID and I didn't want people to have access to misinformation which could have harmed them. The problem, what you have to understand is once you allow for that sort of censorship to occur, you have to understand that the logical endpoint of that is the people that are using it will rely on it as a crutch and eventually overuse it. Now, I go further than that in saying that these people didn't have good motivations, that for them it was always about control, and they constantly take crises and figure out, well, how can we use this crisis to attack our opponents more? And so it was convenient that they locked down churches, for example, while allowing liquor stores to remain open, and things of that nature. So they used this politically, and they used it to harm Donald Trump and win in the 2020 election. But absolutely what happens is you censor truthful information, and then they just kind of say, shucks, it's an old story now. Well, it's not an old story to the millions of people whose lives were negatively affected by lockdowns and vaccine mandates. To them, it's not an old story. And how horrible would it be to have lost your small business or something to that effect, only to find out that there were millions of people that were questioning those decisions as well, but they were basically being censored off platforms so you couldn't hear them.
You know what? One of the big things that I think is really dangerous is the fact that so many Americans, they don't actually know why we have the First Amendment. They don't know what the underlying logic and reason is for allowing free speech. It reminds me of a time I was on a Twitch panel. I was debating leftists on a Twitch debate, and I literally challenged one of these leftists, tell me, why do we believe in free speech? Why, as a society and culture, do we support the free and open discussion of ideas, even if those positions are wrong or offensive? And their response was, well, misinformation can harm people, so that's why we want to stop it. It's like they literally can't offer the actual justification for why we allow free speech, even if the speech is wrong. And I mean, me and you can talk, and me and you can, discuss these ideas, and we both sort of start from a position of understanding the basis for why we support free speech, even if the speech is wrong or offensive. But I don't think a lot of these leftists, they honestly don't even know. They can't even articulate when challenged the basis for why we support free speech.
And they assume that it must be that we're bad people and that we're racist or that we're people that want to cause harm to people. And so we're just, sitting back, twiddling our thumbs like we hope Elon takes over so that we could out our hatred. When it couldn't be further from the truth. I know enough about you to know that we have no love for people that advocate terrible ideas, be they left, right, center. We don't like those people. We just think they should have the right to talk unless they're breaking the law or, pushing for certain things that we would say are beyond the pale. But what happens is we could see that their rationale of we're against misinformation. The biggest purveyors of misinformation in the past 6 years have been the Democratic Party and their media cohorts. Yep. And yet we never once said, well, the media shouldn't be allowed to post on social media. The Democrats shouldn't be allowed to go on Jake Tapper's show and say X. But that's how they treat us. They say, well, if they're saying things we disagree with, we'll just claim anything that we don't like as disinformation and then say you shouldn't be platformed, you shouldn't be allowed to say it. We don't reciprocate with that.
Hey, so we got a call from DJ in Billings. He talked to the producer, and he basically wanted us to discuss ESG. I've got a couple of actual news stories on ESG, and particularly the horrible returns that the ESG companies have had this year because the big oil stocks are some of the best performers, and so all of these ESG funds are way underperforming the market. But are you fully up to speed on kind of the ESG thing and what's going on with that, and can you explain and kind of give your opinion?
Yeah, I'll try to explain this as someone who's novicely looked into it. ESG stands for Environmental Social Governance, and what it is it's a new way that they are suggesting that we should run companies, which is...
Rob, unfortunately, we got a 60-second news update here at 7:30. Really appreciate you hanging with us here, but we got a 60-second news update here at 7:30. We'll be right back and let Rob finish the ESG discussion.
News. I'm Chris Foster. A little boy and his mother found a street away are killed when a tornado hits their home in Louisiana. 3 tornado deaths are confirmed there.
There are multiple injuries. Also, structures in this neighborhood, we are told, are in bad shape. This system that began on the West Coast, dumping all that snow and moving into Texas yesterday and Oklahoma with tornadoes, 6 of them.
Fox Weather's Robert Ray in Keithville, Louisiana. The House Committee investigating the Capitol riot has scheduled its final public meeting this coming Monday, the 19th.
Chairman Benny Thompson says the report will be posted online December 21st. Many will be watching to see if the criminal recommendations include former President Donald Trump. The recommendations will be made to the Justice Department, which is conducting its own investigation.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz in D.C. 2 police officers are reported shot and killed at a motel in Mississippi by a woman who then killed herself. America's listening to Fox News.
This is a totally different animal trying to talk to Rob Noerr on the phone, on the radio, because Rob and I are used to having basically an hour or 2 hours straight of uninterrupted conversations. In fact, we've done a bunch of videos together kind of leading up to the 2022 midterms, and we still have to do sort of a post-midterm election thing, and I've also asked Rob to do a debate on Mike Pence and some of these other 2024 primary candidates, which I'm looking forward to. But Rob, we had a caller ask about ESG, and we kind of had to cut you off there.
Yeah, so ESG, environmental social governance, and instead of the traditional model of businesses looking to shareholders and having a fiduciary responsibility to be profitable, now they're saying, well, instead there are other metrics we should look at, such as how good were you for the environment. Okay, we know that could go off the rails real quick, but then it gets even crazier. What about social? What does that mean? And what about governance? And basically what this is code for is that you could insert woke ideology in these corporations, and somehow we should prioritize that with government decisions involving regulations. What ends up happening is the exact opposite of what the intended outcome is. So we're told that ESG would make things better for the environment. What you can see is many of these companies that are some of the worst polluters and things like that, as long as they're virtue signaling or donating to the Democratic Party, all of a sudden their ESG score increases. And so it actually has the inverse effect of what they're saying. What it really is a scheme to allow Democrats and allow people on the woke left to control the direction that these companies are going using governmental pressures. And so it basically makes in-kind donations to the causes of the Democrat more, beneficial when it comes to government regulation. It's one of the worst schemes, and it ultimately will fail, as I'm sure you were saying you have evidence for, that we'll see the profitability of the companies that are doing this is going to start to decline because the perceived benefit of the Democrats' favor and their sort of interventions into the market will be outweighed by the loss in profitability that comes from the actual decisions they're making, which harms them in free markets.
Yeah, no, I've got a story somewhere here in my stack of stuff about how the ESG funds underperformed the market this year. And, of course, the primary reason why is because some of the big oil companies, Exxon and some of these other big oil companies, they were the best performers. They were some of the only stocks that did well in the stock market this year. So you're already seeing these ESG companies underperform the market. In fact, there's actually an ETF out there that I've been looking at investing. It's DRLL, short for drill. It's literally like a non-ESG ETF that specifically invests in oil companies and other stuff like that. But I think you're right that it's mainly just a control issue. That's what they're concerned about, controlling everything. But the other story I had on ESG was a story about all of these treasurers and governors around the country who are basically divesting from BlackRock and some of these other entities that are pushing this ESG and control and everything like that, which I think is a great thing. We got a break coming up right here. We're going to get more of Rob Noerr here. I've got some other stories I want to talk about. This is David Noble filling in for Aaron Flint.
Tire Supply Service Center for the best tires around.
The cold is creeping in, which means it's time to get your winter tires. Be Montana winter ready at Lysick Tire Supply. Hand-cooked tires for all cars, trucks, and trailers. Hand-cooked tires have exceptional durability and stability. Hand-cooked, the trusted name on or off the road, are in stock off King Avenue and 32nd Street. Stop in today, and they'll have you on your way at Lysick Tire Supply.
Here for your car, wherever you are.
Hi, I'm Wendy, an attorney with The Advocate. As the weather changes and the sun sets earlier, the roads are more dangerous. With winter and cooler temperatures, the roads will become icy and slick. If the negligence of another driver left you injured and you have questions, The Advocates have answers. We'll help guide you through the legal process while you rest and get better. Chat with an attorney online at montanaadvocates.com. That's montanaadvocates.com. You didn't deserve to be in an accident, but you do deserve an advocate.
Have you been naughty or nice this year? Cash don't care. At Jackson Hewitt, you could still get up to $4,500 for the holidays. Some bucks now, more bucks in January. So be naughty. Snap up all the ginger snaps. Wear a pretty sweater to an ugly sweater holiday party. You could still get up to $4,500 when you go to Jackson Hewitt today. Details at jacksonhewitt.com. Eligible clients can get up to $1,000 in December and up to $3,500 in January. Loans by Republic Bank and Trust Company. Finance charge may apply.
So before, if you went to our Montana Talks app or you went to montanatalks.com, we might have one interview or maybe 1 hour of the show that you could listen to on our Montana Talks app. This is great because we've now got a new feature. Now you can listen to the entire morning show at montanatalks.com. Click the on-demand button, download the app. You can download the programs. So any guest we have on the show, any phone call we get will also be on the Montana Talks app.
I never write reviews, but Navage is so amazing, I had to leave one. Nothing's ever cleared out my sinuses as well. I'm blown away by how Navage works. That's a review from Carrie, and it's one of over 100,000 online testimonials praising Navage. I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I've talked about flushing out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs. How Navage's powered suction can help you breathe better, and how your nose is the body's air filter, and Navage will clean it out. But don't take my word for it. What do people like Chad say, who wrote, Navage has helped clear out my nasal passages every single night. My wife says my snoring has gone way down. Snorefest be gone, unquote. Navage is the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million customers to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Make this a holiday to treasure with 50% off everything at your nearest Banana Republic factory store. Discover inspired gifts, big and small, for everyone on your list, starting at $24.99. Only at Banana Republic Factory.
It's not too early to talk to your child about drinking. For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
This is where Montana talks. Call Aaron on the Parsec Data Management phone lines, 406-294-0970. Parsec Data Management, securing critical business IT. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
It's David Noble filling in for Aaron Flint on Montana Talks. We are talking to robnoerr, a Twitch streamer just like me. We're both on Twitch. I'm at LCTRFan, LCTRFan. Rob is at noerr, Robert, Noerr, Robert. Hey, Rob, I had this story that I wanted to, I don't know if you've heard about this, but I just saw this. This is a couple of days old now, but the reason I grabbed this one is because it's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania school board member refuses to vote for cis white male for president, saying it, quote, sends the wrong message. This is a Fox News story. A Willow Grove, Pennsylvania school board member said she would not vote for the only cis white male on the board to serve as president, despite prefacing the comment that he would make an excellent president. Did you hear this story?
I did not, but it sounds very familiar to what you hear. from the left, which is they justify their own racism. They seek to divide people into arbitrary categories based on any metric, race, gender, sexual orientation, age, ability, all of these things. It's just Marxism, except it's cultural Marxism. And when you say that one of those groups is oppressors, in this case, cis white men, then it's okay to justify your bigotry against them. We have a worldview that says that you should do your best to treat people as individuals. And so you don't judge people based on these arbitrary metrics. They claim that they want to be people that are against racism, but what they really mean is they want to justify racism against the groups that they see as oppressors.
Right. Here's the quote. Fox News quotes this school board member. She says, "I believe that Mr. D'Elia would make an excellent president. However, I feel that electing the only cis-white male on this board president of this district sends the wrong message to our community, a message that is contrary to what we as a board have been trying to accomplish." You know, this reminds me of a story that I did one time. I do a woke update of the week on Thursdays here on the radio show, and one of them was about a Florida police chief who openly said that they were not going to hire any white police officers, and they were only going to hire racial minorities, and they literally ended up getting fired and charged with civil rights violations. But these people are openly committing civil rights violations and doing racist things, and they actually think they're the wonderful ones.
Yeah, and take a national story just from this week, the release of Brittany Griner. Whatever you feel about that, I'm not really going to talk about that, but look at the reaction that you saw from so many mainstream media people in the Biden administration. It's a huge celebration because she's a member of the LGBT community and she's black. What does that have to do with anything? If we're going to celebrate bringing home an American citizen, so be it. But what are these the reason it's so important, says, the press secretary, is because she's LGBT and she's black. It shows that their inner workings is they're always hyper-focused on these things. And it's ironic because, as always, we see the Democrats accuse you of exactly what they're doing. And so these type of people will say, our racism, they don't consider their racism, but that's what it is. But they think it's justified because they perceive everything as being systemically racist. And so therefore it's okay to say, well, we'll malign white people or judge people because they're white and not want to hire them. That's still racism, and we should fight against that. I don't care if you're left-wing or right-wing. We should reject that notion that we judge people or hire people based on these factors like immutable characteristics.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the news right now. Congress is about to ram through another omnibus appropriations package. Not sure if you've been following that. We've obviously got the SBF, FTX story. We've got stories about thousands and thousands of migrants crossing the border. Obviously, the Twitter files have come out. CDC was asking for Congress to put more money out. There's just a lot of stuff going on out there. Did you have anything that you're kind of focusing on lately?
I think the Twitter files are sort of the biggest story that's occurring right now because of what the implications. To me, it seemed evident that the Democrats and the left were more fearful of Elon Musk buying Twitter than they were of even losing the midterm election. And that's because they understand their authoritarian ideas are so unpopular that the only way that they're able to get them into power is by controlling the flow of information. And so if Elon came in and sort of, let the skeletons out of the closet, that would be really bad. Remember, the gnashing of the teeth about Elon isn't because they're worried that Elon will do to the left and do to Democrats what they've done to conservatives, what Twitter has in the past. They're just worried that they'll no longer be able to censor their opposition. And for me, that sort of telling admission at the disdain for the First Amendment and the admission that the only way we could win the argument is to silence our opponents, to me, that's the biggest story right now, because if we get back in the free speech game, I think, like you said earlier, there are millions of people that don't vote or are apathetic towards voting, or even that are centrist and do vote, that have voted Democrat, that if they were able to see the competing ideas would realize how bad the ideas of the Democratic Party are.
Well, there's actually polling that shows that if the Hunter Biden laptop story had not been censored, and that's a whole discussion in and of itself about how the federal government, the FBI, DHS, CISA, all of these organizations went to the big tech companies and warned them and said, "Hey, there's going to be a hack and leak operation in October involving Hunter Biden," and then they pushed this lie about this. It was Russian disinformation, and that was a huge censorious story, and they censored it, and they purged anybody. They wouldn't even allow you to send it in a DM, and it turned out, of course, that was all true. And the polling shows that the American people, there was enough American people who would have changed their vote and not voted for Biden had they known the truth about how corrupt Biden really is that's been shown by the Hunter laptop, that honestly makes me question the quote-unquote legitimacy of the 2020 election far more than any claims of, actual changing of votes through voter fraud or shenanigans.
Totally agree. And what's key to remember is it's not just Twitter. It was almost every social media group, but more than that, think of all of the directions that our public conversation go through culture. Academia, the entertainment industry, the media, social media, corporate America, all of these institutions were pushing the same direction. And not just on the Hunter Biden story, but on cultural and political issues in general for 4 years through the Trump presidency. And so you could see, look, you don't have to take my word for it. All of us understand the Democrats know that this is a big deal, and here's why. They gaslit us that 12 Russian trolls posting ads on Pokemon Go and Facebook was enough to swing the 2016 election. We still talk about, 2016 disinformation. That's what they're talking about. 12 trolls spending $100,000 in ads in 2016. So if that was enough for them to say that that stole an election, what would happen if not just 12 people on these platforms, but the platforms themselves were pushing disinformation and censoring accurate information to help one party? This clearly was enough to swing the election, and if it doesn't change, it will be enough to swing elections in perpetuity.
Yeah, no, there's no question. By the way, if you guys want to jump in on the conversation, 406-294-0970. It looks like we just had somebody trying to call. If you want to call back, we'll try to get you on and join the story. The other big thing from the Twitter files that I think is a big takeaway is that this was not just happening at Twitter, because and remember specifically how when they banned Donald Trump, and of course the Twitter files have shown that the Twitter actually determined that Trump had not violated the rules at all, and there was numerous sort of messages internally at Twitter saying, "Yeah, we've looked at this. This is not a violation. We can't ban him." Blah blah blah. And then they ended up banning him, but it wasn't just Twitter. It was done in coordination with all of the other, big tech companies, and that's extremely dangerous. And yeah, maybe we have some more free speech on Twitter, but not a lot of Americans are on Twitter, and they're being pushed garbage on TikTok. The algorithm TikTok is pushing horrible stuff, and the Chinese Communist Party is trying to control what Americans see and view because of their control over TikTok, and then YouTube is doing the same thing. Twitter or Facebook's doing the same thing. So even if Twitter somehow changes, we've still got a major problem, because I guarantee all of this stuff that was happening at Twitter is also happening on all of the other big tech platforms. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And what's important to remember is the 2020 election was basically decided by 40,000 votes. If 40,000 people in 3 states vote in a different direction, we have a different president. And you have to ask yourself, how much, the control of the flow of information, it's not going to be able to convince 100% of the people. But what if you could convince 10% of the people? There was a professor named Robert Epstein who testified in front of Senate that the manipulation of Google's algorithm alone could sway as many as 16 million votes in a national election like the 2020. I mean, that's unbelievable in elections that are decided by tens of thousands of votes. And so the idea that we have all of these platforms working in tandem, and not just social media, as we've said, also the mainstream media, also the entertainment industry, academia, that are setting sort of these cultural positions and these political positions, we are looking ahead at a very dystopic future where Google and the CIA and the FBI pick and choose who your president and other elected leaders will be. That's something the left used to fear, but now they're in support.
Up against another break here. Rob, thanks so much for hanging with us. We'll be right back. This is David Noble filling in for Aaron.
News commentary.
Gen Zers are coming home for the holidays on Mom and Dad's dime. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next. Well, they say there are certain things that shouldn't be brought up at the kitchen table, but not here at the Duffys. So pull up a chair and join me, Rachel Campos Duffy.
And me, former U.S. Congressman Sean Duffy, as we share our perspective on the discussions happening at kitchen tables across America.
And we're going to share some real-life solutions as well to the everyday issues that you all talk about. And we're going to talk about some of those things that we agree on.
And some that we don't.
Download from the kitchen table, the Duffys at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts.
Airline ticket prices are expensive. Gas, also expensive. Everything in Biden's America is expensive. A new study by Credit Karma shows about 41% of Gen Zers rely on mom and dad to foot the bill for their homeward-bound holiday travel. 1 in 10 also said they won't be coming home at all because neither they nor their family can afford it. Round-trip flight prices are up almost 40% from last year. Hotels and rental cars are also through the roof. And when you add that to the cost of rent, college tuition, food, and basic life necessities, youngsters and their parents are spread too thin. A study from Savings.com found half of parents with a child over 18 provide them with some level of financial assistance, and it's costing them on average about $1,000 a month. You know, at some point, you'd think these kids and their parents would make the economic connection. This is Biden's economy. Maybe stop voting for it. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can listen to all of my hot takes at foxnewscommentary.com.
Get excited. Billings Kia Volkswagen, the corner of Shiloh and King.
Freddie Fowler here from Kia Volkswagen of Billings. Everybody's walking into the Kia Volkswagen of Billings saying, "Where's your goat?" I am a doer, not a talker. I will take your goat in on trade. Listen, and I need to get a saddle for that goat because certain people need to ride a goat on out of here. Let's have the biggest December to remember ever. We're going to sell so many cars. We're going to help so many families because that's what we do. Get excited.
Get excited. Kia Volkswagen of Billings, the corner of Shiloh and King.
The Venture X card from Capital One gives you more of what you love, like premium travel benefits and access to Taylor Swift tickets. Oh, I do love her. Earn 5 times miles on flights and 10 times miles on hotels through Capital One Travel.
Enjoy your stay at Suite 13.
Whoa, 13? That's Taylor's lucky number. Plus, get access to Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, presented by Capital One. Maybe I'll see you there. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. Have you been naughty or nice this year? Cash don't care. At Jackson Hewitt, you could still get up to $4,500 for the holidays. Some bucks now, more bucks in January. So be naughty. Snap up all the ginger snaps. Wear a pretty sweater to an ugly sweater holiday party. You could still get up to $4,500 when you go to Jackson Hewitt today. Details at jacksonhewitt.com. Eligible clients can get up to $1,000 in December and up to $3,500 in January. Loans by Republic Bank and Trust Company. Finance charge may apply.
It's a new day because COVID vaccines just got a big update. So all the big stuff coming up this fall, well, now you can say, you bet I'll be there. Because updated COVID vaccines protect against both the original COVID virus and Omicron. And everyone 5 and older can get one. So this is a moment we've all been waiting for.
Find updated COVID vaccines at vaccines.gov. We can do this. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Broadcasting live across the great state of Montana, this is Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
It's David Noble filling in for Aaron Flint. We've got Robnoerr on the line. Rob, here's a little piece of news. I'd love to hear your comments on this. John Fetterman among the New York Times list of most stylish people. Have you heard this one?
I did. I did. For those that don't know, I'm in Pennsylvania here, so you might just know Fetterman as someone who suffered a stroke and basically was unable to speak or read clearly in his debate, which is unfortunate that he's going to be our senator. But even before then, Fetterman was known as sort of dressing in like sweatpants and hoodies. It's a joke. It's sort of a joke and it's laughable, but there's actually something serious that's going on here, which is the direct inversion of reality. And we see this occur with the left all the time. Let me give you a more serious example. Did you see the Washington Post put out statements on the Twitter file, or put out an article on the Twitter file, and in it they called Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss far right, or right-wing comment. And this is
when they're literally left-leaning.
Right. They're literally left-leaning, voted for Hillary, voted for Biden, right? But this is what it's not just enough to kind of obfuscate the truth. Sometimes they tell the exact opposite of the truth. And we see this happening with a lot of issues in the trans community. We see it happening with, like, take an issue like defunding the police. They tried to gaslight us to say, well, actually, it was the Democrats that wanted to fund the police and Republicans that didn't. And so this is just another step of them showing in a very, like, subtle way that they are just inverting the truth. So you can say many things about John Fetterman. Anyone with a straight face that's going to say he's some beacon of fashion is clearly gaslighting you.
Totally. No, it's almost like just spitting in our face and saying, look, we can say the exact opposite of the truth. And guess what? A lot of the Democrats out there are going to agree with it and be like, yeah, Fetterman is stylish. Yeah, short, tennis shoes, shorts, and a hoodie. That's a good thing. We should encourage that. And they'll actually, and a lot of these Democrats out there will go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see, and that's one of the things that entertainment and, like, culturally, a lot of things like the entertainment industry or art and things like that are subjective. And consider that the same people that are telling you this about Fetterman are the same type of people telling you which movies are good and which aren't. And that has an effect, because what it does is it slips into sort of our cultural discussion, and it subtly convinces people to say, well, these are the experts, and so even if I watched that movie and didn't think it was any good, all the critics on Rotten Tomatoes said it was great, so it must be a good movie. Fetterman must be a snappy dresser. It really just goes to show you how pervasive and insidious these sort of commentaries can be.
Yeah, it really is amazing. By the way, how did Fetterman win that election? And I keep hearing these comments about, candidate quality, and I'm wondering if candidate quality is an issue for John Fetterman and the Democrats.
Of course not. The issue is this. I don't think Oz was a great candidate, but I did my best to try to get him elected. The issue is this. Because all of these institutions are embracing the Democrats at this point, Republicans basically have to run perfect campaigns in order to win. The most important issue is learning to effectively use ballot harvesting. It's unfortunate we've got to this point, but we did, thanks to COVID and other things. So now it's going to be hard to roll this back. So you need to utilize these tools of ballot harvesting, but you also simultaneously have to be getting donations and having good advertising. You have to be running on smart issues, and you have to have good candidates. The ideal Democratic candidate at this point, because every institution is on their side, is a stroke victim or someone in a coma. They want someone who literally does and says nothing. Then they can leave their allies in the mainstream media and in the tech companies run the campaign for them. Whereas the Republicans can't do that. They need someone who is a great candidate and is fundraising well and is knowing how to do ballot harvesting. So, the question of candidate quality, there is some truth that maybe that has some little effect. But I don't think there was one candidate that could have been Fetterman. As bad as Fetterman was, candidate quality doesn't matter, because quality-wise, Fetterman was as bad as it gets. With the way that ballot harvesting is in Pennsylvania and the vote by mail, it's going to be difficult for a long time for Republicans to win back the state. That's why my primary focus is getting Republican leadership to have a plan to be able to harvest ballots better than Democrats, like we see in areas in California and like we see in areas like Florida.
Yeah, so the other people on the New York Times list include Ayanna Pressley, Ketanji Brown Jackson, New York Mayor Eric Adams. Totally non-biased. But hey, Rob, we got 20 seconds left. Say a couple closing words, and thanks so much for joining us.
It's an honor to be here. Look, I know we talk about things that are depressing. Remember, the most important things in your life are your friends, your family, your loved ones, your relationship with God. We will always win as long as we recognize those things. Even if political things look bad at certain points, we'll be
Thanks so much.
That's why there is one source that I look to for the best advice on the local real estate market. Amber Earn of Realty Billings. You've been doing this a long time. What options do you have available that maybe other agents do not?
Yes, John, we have a pre-renovation program. I think it's more important now than ever to have a property in the best condition, make the repairs, update carpet and paint. And we have a really great program where we help the sellers do that.
All right. Yeah, so I'll be wrapping up here, but that was fun. The radio's tough. There's a lot of breaks. I think LCTRFan's doing a good job. It's hard to get that cadence down. You can tell both of us are Twitch streamers, right, or live stream streamers, because it's it's difficult to get that cadence 20 seconds, and then I go 40 seconds. Oof. So I apologize to LectureFan for that. But no, I really enjoy it. Hopefully it reaches sort of a different type of audience, and maybe they get interested to come watch people like LectureFan and I on these streaming services. So I'll finish up with this real quick. If you haven't, check out my debate last night, my 6-hour stream with Sitchin Adam. You can find that on my YouTube Rumble channels, so you can check that out. But ultimately, I thought I did very well. I don't understand. My volume's low? Oh, 1 second. I don't know why that happens sometimes. Check. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, with Sitchin Adam, I think that, they're sort of demanding smoking gun proof before you can make any conclusions based on a preponderance of evidence is absurd. But, all I have to say is, it's unfortunate that it kind of ended on a dour note, where they thought that I was accusing them of things. I think that it was sort of ridiculous. I went back and rewatched and was like, what did I say that they took as a personal attack? They're repeatedly saying, I thought Adam was sort of rude to me the entire time. Rude and condescending, constant interrupting, constant saying, that he didn't want to hear from me and things like that, which is fine. I'm not complaining about it. But it seems like and then they were accusing me of being biased and things like that. I didn't take that as a personal attack. I thought they were saying, well, this is why you're framing things differently. But then when I accused them of bias, and they wouldn't let me get out my final point, the point was, I'm not saying you're biased like, oh, you're a Democrat shill or you're an FBI shill. I'm saying you're biased in the way that you view this evidence. And what will happen is you'll say, well, until we have smoking gun proof at the end of an investigation, we can't make any sort of conclusion. And then once that investigation drags on for 2 years and we're like, okay, it turns out that happened, people are just like, well, what can we do now? It's over with. And that sort of allows the corruption to continue apace because we're constantly being told either it didn't happen or we have to wait and see. And then when we wait and see and we find out we're right, it's like, well, it's too late to do anything about it now. No, I didn't get dunked on, Alex. Even the majority of people on Sitchin Adam's program thought that I didn't get dunked on. But Alex, I understand that you're a troll. I get that. Oftentimes, though, what I think is funny is the trolls that you see. I don't get the highest quality trolls. I get people like Alex. Alex is someone who desperately wants some sort of attention, who's incapable of actually being humorous or actually having opinions that are something worthwhile that we should talk about. So he attempts some of this low-grade trolling, but it just doesn't come off as that effective. But keep trying, Alex. You'll get there someday. You're there to virtue signal your puppets. Good job. So, when I went back and looked, I didn't think, my wife is funny. She is a good troll. But when I went back and watched, I feel like they took things personally, and it's unfortunate that, I would go back on. I'm not personally, I thought that it was very mild. Like, even the condescension and the interruptions by Adam is like, okay, it's their show. I don't really mind. But I just thought it was odd that, like, at the end, they're like, well, Adam's like, we're going to kick you off. I'm like, okay, what did I say? I think my point still stands. That doesn't mean you're a terrible person. I thought I was pretty clear in what my point was. But it seemed, I honestly thought, oh, maybe I did say something where I was like, you're a shill. Maybe I said that. And then I went back and I didn't say anything like that. I was intentionally trying to tell myself, and it's something that I'm going to try to do moving forward, that I could be aggressive, but also sort of keep a little more level than I had. And so that was my approach going into that. And I thought that I did well. So it was unfortunate that that's how it ended, that there was, sort of bad blood there. But I do have to go. My wife is correct. It is cookie day. So we're going to this is the day where we go with Courtney's family and we make cookies. Well, they make cookies and I eat them. And then everyone's like, Why is Rob a fat tubbo? Well, maybe it's because of days like cookie days. So, but no, it's going to be a lot of fun. So unfortunately, you won't hear from me this evening. I got to talk to my wife and Aftershock. I might be doing a live stream with him and a friend of his tomorrow evening around 9 or 9:30. But then I will be off Friday as well. So please, if you're bored and you need Rob content, chances are you didn't watch the full 6-hour stream that I did yesterday. So check that out on my YouTube and Rumble channels. Once more, I'd like to thank LCTRFan. I think he does a tremendous job working on radio, and having to meet all those breaks and having call-ins and having guests is a different skill set. I think he does phenomenally. So give my friend LCTRFan, it's LCTRFan on Twitch. Give him a follow. You probably, if you're watching me, you know of him, but he's one of my favorite people to talk to, and I think that it's incredibly generous that when he gets an opportunity to host that talk radio show, that he thinks of bringing me on to talk to that audience. So thank you so much, LCTRFan, and thank all of you for supporting me. I really do appreciate it. I will see you all possibly tomorrow evening. If not, we'll see you Monday. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully you get to eat as many delicious cookies as me. So as always, have a good one.